It is 5 o'clock on April 5th. Stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to have a special meeting on Wolf Fest tonight. So, have to get me in there, folks. Okay, what all are you planning on doing?
What's that?
What are you planning on doing? Because there's certain guidelines that we have to meet.
Correct. So I guess, is there any particular question or just in general first?
Let's just general first.
Yeah, so, we read through it, we're trying to abide by everything as best as we can. We're gonna have, someone from the Rhode ambulance at the gate screening people and taking temperatures. There'll be added hand washing stations and sanitize stations throughout. You know, we'll have signs and whatnot posted accordingly for social distancing and, you know, stay in your group and whatever for the policy.
So you're gonna have extra security there to watch over this?
Yeah, but is, you know, you tell one person one thing and it's, they just really turn their back, they may ignore it and completely do their own thing. So that's gonna be a really hard one to police.
Well, I know that's what.
But we're gonna do our best.
That's what you want to do.
Right.
Because like, your square footage amount, and it was figured out in square footage, you can't have 1,000 people there.
Yeah. So the state of Minnesota, from our understanding through even Johnny Home days, is that anytime you put people in a restricted space and they have a restricted exit, that you have to have a fire code capacity. So we do have a capacity for the street, and it's like 3,900. So with the calculation, it brings us to like 1,100 people.
So I talked to Dustin today, and he knew nothing about that. Dustin Newman. And then he told me to call the fire marshal in Red Wing, but he didn't call back. So, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what we've always been directed under.
This is a little different. You know, these regulations they're making it difficult. I mean, it is hard. It's hard.
Maybe I could just jump in a little bit and just explain the specific that we're talking about in this issue. So, we went through this a little bit when we were talking about the community Christmas. Okay. So, I think the regulations I'm carrying on, I haven't talked in a trade one. The regulations are pretty clear. If you have a fire rating in the area you're going to use, that's a different rule than if you don't have a fire rated area. And so, if we don't have a fire rated area, it's like not even 300 people.
Right.
Wavering on that. Yeah. So, he told me that they had some kind of a, I think you told me you had used or somebody had come up with a rating. I mean, it isn't like you're walking in a door and you see something, fire marshal says you can have so many people in the building. It's not like that. So, what you have, I don't know what we're talking about. Maybe look. So that's where the issue is, the first issue, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How about that?
Can I add to that?
I just want to get the table, set the table here.
I visited with the Attorney General's office this afternoon, talked with the gal up there, and I asked her if, where do we come up with the calculations on how many people we can have? And she said, the calculation formula is on the website.
Yeah.
I said, is that the one we use? She said, that's the only one you use. So you have to go by what's on the website. So I don't know if we can go by
When
as far as
I
devices.
talk to, it says here, it says, in an outdoor venue that does not maintain an occupant capacity that is required or established by the applicable state or local authority, e.g. an outdoor rink or park,
Right.
the venue must use the following calculations. Well, ain't to it, it says, so what you basically do, you take your square footage, you divide it by 115, that's where you come up with like 300 feet.
Right.
Is that right there? Everybody agree on that? I think we all agree on that. Okay. So the only exception to that is that, is this, if we do have some kind of a fire, I'm relying on that we don't have, when Trayvon says to me, we do have an occupant capacity that is required or established by state or, do we have any rule that says what your occupancy requirement is? I'm not aware of one, but if you tell me there is, or somebody tells me there is there a rule or a statute that we've used before to say you can have so many people in that area? Do you know, does anybody know the answer to that question? Trayvon, I think we got it, Trayvon's not lying to us, sometime it came up, is that right?
Correct.
Tell us what you know about that, Trayvon.
As far as I've always been told, I personally don't have a signed document or anything stating this, but I can certainly go to the fire marshal and investigate this further. But what we've always been told is that you can calculate your fire capacity, and then we do need to have something in place if we're restricting exit. And it's calculated in general on 5 square foot per person for a seated area, 7 square feet per person for a dance area, 7 square feet per area for a waiting in line area. It goes through like 5 or 6 different things. So you gotta zone off every different section of your space for different areas and calculate it based on this.
Do we have, so I think the question for the council is, do we have a rated area or not?
According to our fire marshal, or our fire chief, no.
Okay,
We
all right,
don't.
all right. Okay, so that might mean 300 feet.
Would that be pre-pandemic though? Or are we talking, are those numbers pandemic numbers now? Or was that
I don't-
capacity before the pandemic? That would be the question.
I don't know.
It'll be before, but if we are saying we have that in place, then it, I think Dick and I agree that it would fall under this other one where it says that you do have a capacity, then they follow this different calculation.
Well, that's the different, that's, all right, so let's take, well, that step maybe, okay?
Right.
So the next step is, I think, I'm just trying to lead the conversation, I'm
Sure.
trying to get to the answer, okay?
Yep.
So the next step is, if that isn't, if we do have a rated area, you might be able to get 1,000 people, right? All right. That's because it's a different calculation. So that's fine. Then the issue comes up about this seating thing. That's really a difficult one, because if there's any drinking going on, they all got to be seated, right? They all got to be seated. They all got to sit down. There's no dancing. There's no mingling. I think you can have 6 people at that. 6 people together or something like that. 6 non-related people together. Then when they get up to get a beer or whatever they're going to drink or whatever they're going to drink, they got to put a mask on, I think. So that leads to another level of complication that we wish we didn't have to deal with what we do. And so for the council's concern is that I think what I'm hearing from you guys, it's compliance. We're all concerned about safety, but it's also compliance, because I can guarantee you there's going to be people in the community that will try and make us, everybody in this room, look bad if we don't comply. And I shouldn't be concerned about looking bad, but I am, because it's my town, and I'm the city attorney, and I don't have a vote, but I just don't want us to look bad. You know, That's what I'm concerned about. I probably said, that's what, is that kind of where, does everybody understand? So you got the 300 max, then you got the 1,000 max, but then if you got the 1,000 max, the seating is really gonna be tough. But anyway, now you guys are aware of that too, but you haven't gotten to that yet. Is that kind of fair statement?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what we can do there, but that one is the biggest
That's a
struggle.
tough deal.
I mean, everything else in the policy, I think we have plans to meet. That's the one we're struggling on. You put out folded chairs, are people gonna sit down in them? Probably not. Are they gonna get kicked around the wreck? More than likely. So we're struggling on that one. And part of it is they're pushing vaccines out quicker than the state had planned, so we're kind of banking on the walls pushing another update by then. And we're still over 2 months away.
I mean, I'd love to see that. But we still, as of right now, we gotta comply as, and they, if they open it up in the end of May, no problem. But if they don't open it up, then we have to comply or they'll come down on us. That's where the kicker comes in. It's not that everybody says we don't want it, it's just that we have to comply. That's where this whole meeting's come from, just compliance.
Correct. No, I get that. But I mean, we're 2 months away and things are looking positive and we need to plan now for them. We can't wait until the day before and say, okay, here's how the policy is. Two.
I think
There's a
that's,
little bit of a,
go ahead, Travis, I'm sorry.
there's a little bit of a,
What's the catch-22 is what it is.
Well, but, also there's some financial implications that we, and not trailing, but there's some rumblings that, well, the city gonna bail us out. And I don't know what your finances, I have no idea, but that's where the real problem is as far as the city don't want you guys to go bankrupt, but maybe you are, maybe the city's gonna cover them, but I kinda doubt it.
What is the cancellation policy on the band?
you cancel under any reason, you pay 50%.
Even in the pandemic though?
And I don't mean to be triggered, but at a Zoom meeting that we had for Boat Fest, I specifically asked you that. And you had said that the bands are, and this was early, okay, the bands are aware that Minnesota has stricter requirements than the other states, and they've been playing in those other states and whatever, and that they would understand and be okay if we have to cancel because of restrictions.
Yeah, to give everybody kind of a general understanding of where that stuff sits. So contracts are signed almost a year ahead of time. We plan for next year as soon as this year is done. So when a contract is signed, if we cancel for any reason, we are obligated to pay 50%. Last year, we didn't cancel essentially contracts. We re-signed, we postponed for a year, re-signed for this year's, with the agreement that we would not be out any money re-signing for this year. They worked with us with the pandemic. With Walz's orders of not opening up events for a while, they were in agreements with us. They didn't want to, but given we straight up couldn't have an outdoor event, they were going to work with us. But then as soon as he pushed that update, they started planning other events in Minnesota and said, you can have one. We're sort of expecting you to have one. And they're the same boat as a lot of other people. I mean, sure, they may get paid big money, but they went pretty much an entire year not having events anywhere. So then to go 2 years without getting paid is going to be next to none. So we're expecting them not to work with us the second year.
There is no type of insurance you can buy or do any, can you do any insurance for that kind of problem? No.
Just the rain, you got rain insurance, we used to have
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that kind of, yeah, for as far as any other kind of insurance, that's,
As I said, I mean,
it's a tough spot.
we haven't gone back to them after you open things up too hard, but like I said, they are expecting us to sort of move forward with it. We haven't pushed too hard against that. So would they still work with us? I don't know, but
Well, I don't want to see
anticipating
you go flat broke on this, don't get me wrong. I think you have to go talk to them and say what happens if we can't. It's not your fault, it's not our fault.
It's the state's.
Well, what if they say the city says you can't? I mean, would that be?
it would be a better record instead of me just saying I'm canceling.
I don't know if that'd be a liability
But-
or not.
Well, the city has to deal with other, because, you know, if you did the stuff on what happened at the rodeo,
Yeah, it's,
25,000.
yeah, it's just difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, we're all from here, we all want the same things, but it's hard. Whether you agree or you don't agree, it's with the guidance that's there, and I just don't want there to have like a videotape down there on Saturday night and Friday night and Saturday night, and then the Jellison comes down there and says, what are you guys doing? And I'm not gonna have a real good answer for them, you know? But it's not my decision. And this really goes to the larger decision, I think, that we really should consider getting Volksfest really out of City Hall. Because it's too many complications, we really shouldn't be doing it, and whether we like it or not, I think it's probably getting to the end where we can do this without causing any problems.
I think no matter if it's in City Hall or out of City
Still got
Hall, because
complaints.
that's kind of a different issue right now.
Right.
Because, you know, I was able to visit with Elizabeth's from Pine Island this afternoon, and last week they just canceled their big band.
Oh, they did.
They said, and that was per the advice of their attorney. The attorney said, you can't do it, and her words were, he was concerned that they could lose their state funding and be fined. So, and they didn't feel that they could, comply with the executive order. We are looking at possibly having a DJ, having something smaller scale, and not advertising.
Did they say anything about paying their contract?
She didn't say that. She's not, I'm sure I could probably find that out from her
Yeah.
easy enough.
So I got a question. What would happen if we would, like the doors over there's out to the fall?
September.
Yeah, so what would happen if we could move it out to there?
I know we talked about postponement in the JCs before, and nobody's really in favor of that. You just run into conflicts with other events and this, that, and the other thing, that we just don't really want to do that. Our feeling is either you have it or you don't.
I'm just trying to look.
No, I see where you're coming from, I'm just,
You know,
that's where we
postpone
sit.
it to say till the end of August or something, and then everything opens up by then, no problem. That's what I'm coming from.
Do you have are you gonna have a Lions deal this year? Is that what it's
We haven't decided yet.
Carolyn would like to talk.
So I have a question, because this is kind of like our talk at the community Christmas. So if I understand you, if you go by the square, can I do this? I'm sorry, I can't talk.
Sure. You guys care if she puts that down?
Okay, I'm not so it was the square feet, we were at the same numbers, we can maybe have 300 people in that area. And they can freely roam around, right? So if they're drinking, they can roam around and drink? Or no, they have
If you're,
to
if
be
you're,
seated.
if you're drinking, you gotta be sitting
They
down.
have to be seated,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but this other calculation you have, where there could possibly be 1,000, the same rules, they have to, if they're drinking, they have to be seated and all of that,
Right.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, well, that was.
That's what makes it really different.
That kind, okay, that kind of,
And
and
the
all
current
of-
regulations essentially lump any eating or drinking underneath the regulations of a restaurant where they expect you to be seated doing so.
Because my question is, and I know that would be really hard to regulate 1,000 people, but we had looked at this at Christmas time, could we expand the area? You know, go into another street and a half, so you have 3 times the area, So you could meet that 1,000.
Well, then, but under that deal though, you have to go you'd still have to block off all, you'd have to block it all off, though,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then, I don't know.
I mean, it's just an idea.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about, because
Your
we
point
wouldn't
is
have them.
still run into the seating.
The seating is.
Yeah, the ceiling, okay, I didn't know if that $1,000, or $1,000, the 1,000, but the 1,000 person, if they would still have to be seated under that regulation. You know what I'm saying?
They gotta be.
I mean,
seated.
to me, what I'm hearing is two different things. And you were talking about having to have.
Well, there's two different factors. One, if you have a
Right.
fire rating, and one if you
Right.
don't.
Right.
One is 300, one is 1,000, but
Right.
under all scenarios, they gotta be seated.
Okay, that
And
is.
distance.
And
The
distance. too,
distance
yeah.
is a
Yeah.
big thing,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
6 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
Does the drinking have to be in the dance area? Could you take the drinking outside of that and set up different areas for that? I don't know where, I'm not, aware of what, but,
I don't think so.
Yeah, and that goes for food court and everything. I mean, we haven't even tried to figure that beast out. It's like, how are you gonna get everybody to sit, get the tables cleaned in between each?
Why not have tables?
I have no idea.
And you just have
Yeah.
chairs, because you don't have room for tables, for people to sit at, do you? If everybody's gotta be 6 feet apart. I mean, you have groups of
You
6,
can have groups of six,
Six.
and then,
and then another group, 6 feet. I don't know. That's a problem.
Or do you pick a deadline? Like Traven comes back at the next council meeting, says what he finds out from talking to his people.
I'd just rather assume make a decision tonight and
No, I don't think we can make a decision on that. We have to have all the
Unless it's
facts, so you have to go to Justin, find out,
well,
we have to check with the state, what they're gonna allow us. So it's not gonna be a decision tonight, I'll guarantee that.
no, I think he wants it one way, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna go to the band and start asking about canceling,
Oh,
not knowing if it's me canceling or the city canceling, and then go, oh, halfway through the conversation, it's the city forcing us to close.
So maybe it's this, you aren't giving the board tonight either, are you?
No.
Okay, this would.
I mean, that's why, it's these people here that gotta do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would like more information before, I ain't saying to cancel anything. I'm just saying, we gotta have some more information before we can make an intelligent decision on what to do. Good or bad.
I don't think it's good or bad, and I think we have to be very cautious about how we perceive that. It's not you people here who have to make a decision. It's the state of Minnesota. And are we able to meet the guidelines? Bottom line, it doesn't matter, we all want the Volks Fest to occur. It's a great thing for our community. But are we going to be able to? We don't want to set them up for failure, and then all of a sudden we're sitting with a big fine and a lawsuit.
Well, I would say under the current guidelines, even if you had 1,000, you can't comply because of the seating and all that kind of stuff. Whether we like it or not.
Well, the thing about it is, you gotta go get this fire rating first. That's the best benefit, to have fire rating where you can get more people. We have to see it. That's where I'm coming from. That's why I'm saying we need more information.
So let's say we even look into that, let's just say that I can't get you the documentation for that. But then we still run into the seating.
It's still gonna be an issue.
I mean, regardless under current guidelines,
You don't wanna have seating.
I don't have anything in place for that.
Okay.
We're struggling to comply.
Okay, well, that's the issue. So even on the best case scenario.
In the best case scenario, I'm hoping that wall pushes in our update,
Well,
which I would expect over the next 2 months. But will that be still within it? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, this whole thing has been no idea. Nobody has any idea what's gonna happen.
I think, Traven, I think your best, you want my advice? your best advice is, rather than hoping for that, so you don't lose your hind end, I think we should, maybe at this time, make a motion that we're not making, just say that we can't have it unless things do change.
Right.
Unless things do change. Because that way you can take it back to the band and say that they can't comply, and they help you out, and if they do change, that, well, that's, we're speculating on that. But that's, if you want something from this guy, the resolution or something to say that, because I think otherwise you're gonna be screwed. I really do. I mean, that's as far as the money part goes. But that's, I don't know for sure either.
I mean, I appreciate everybody giving everybody a year, I mean.
I would think too, maybe even get that contract to Dick and have him look at the contract and maybe
Well,
within that contract.
Well, there's a theory in law called force majeure. If a contract's so basically an impossibility because of an act of God, sometimes they do let you, and I'll look at it, I'll look at it, something I can
It
do.
does have some stipulations in place that acts of God,
Yeah,
certain criteria,
yeah.
cancel and null and void the contract, but
Well, I'll look at it. If you want me to, I'll look at it. I'll be happy to do it. But if the council says it's okay.
Well, we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah.
We're
I
up
can't.
against the wall right now, so.
I mean, he's up, his back up against the wall, so are we.
Yeah.
Right.
There's two different walls, so that's. And I really love to see it take off. I mean, I really think it'd be just great to have it. I mean, don't get me wrong, yeah. Just the compliance issue is what I have a real issue with. You know, if he lets it up open, no problem. If he doesn't open it up any farther, then, I mean, you got backer for Goody, Miss Goody and all that, and then you have to pray back here. I mean, it's everybody's not.
Do you have anybody running for Miss Goody?
I know of one so far, so, but I haven't talked to Jen. She was collecting the applications, so. Yeah. So I don't even know if that's gonna occur.
For me, I just.
It's like it's just too early in June. It's just too early. If it could be, yeah. If it had been set up for the fall, you know.
The fall's really hard for the community too, with the farmers and state fairs and
State
state
fairs,
August.
Yeah, the fair.
I haven't heard much from you.
Well, I guess the one thing I thought was the drinking thing, I didn't know, have you guys looked at like a two-set type, option where you have an early, dance and alcohol and maybe a later one then too and sell tickets that way, or would that help at all or not?
guess I'm not exactly following what you're.
Well,
They have to be finished serving alcohol at 11 o'clock. So weren't you gonna start earlier?
Which we can do.
Yeah, because they can't serve food or alcohol from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. within this plan that they have.
And they can't start till 4 p.m. To serve alcohol.
Is that, where was that stated?
I think it was 4 a.m.
4 a.m. It's really goofy time. We can start at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, 4 a.m.
Yeah, 4
I
a.m.
thought that was a typo.
You can't start drinking, Patrice, at 4:01.
Yeah, they can start.
Yeah,
This is a good discovery.
Yeah, no, it's a party.
oh my gosh.
What I was referring to, Jared, so you have the bands like two different sets, you know, and it sell tickets at two different times, and do a, you know, I don't know,
We got one band, it's not like we have multiple acts.
Right, But I don't think it's something they agree to. And
Oh, sure.
you feel like it's 300 people that are making good or nothing, I don't know.
So in your band this year, you don't have you always had a band start about 6 and then went to 10 or whatever, then your main band started at that time. You're not having that anymore.
Well, our game times would remain the same. There's a delay between game time and music start. We would look to bring the music start time in. And then there's the length of the openers. We would shorten those a little bit. And then there's changeover periods and downtime between the bands.
So you are having multiple bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a-
Well, the openers, but it's not like it's a main act that someone's going to come to.
No, but that's what I was wondering, if you have one band, if you have multiple bands.
Yeah, it would be multiple, just like a normal year.
Well, I think our hands are tied with this seating thing.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know how we could.
I mean, we don't really have the luxury to wait necessarily for another update for the city to give an okay at that point. The way I kind of see this is one of two ways. Either the city blesses it on the understanding that we're gonna abide by the policies in place the day of, or shut the doors right here and now.
Okay, I'm gonna
I
ask
mean,
you,
to me,
I'm
those
gonna
are,
ask you a question. You want us to say, go ahead tonight. Okay, I know you do. Okay, now you go tonight, or that night, you don't comply, the city gets fined $25,000-$30,000, are you paying it? That's what I wanna know. Are you gonna sign a contract that says if we get fined, are you paying it?
so one, I guess, what I would first like to know is why is the city open for liability then if you are saying that we can go forward if we comply with regulations the
See,
day
that's
of?
why we're not saying
That's
it.
not, yeah,
Right.
because that's what the executive order states now, that we have to comply, and that's one of the things that Pine Island said, because it's on city property. The other thing that they said, that was the fire department didn't want to go along with it because they didn't want to run the risk of losing their liquor license. So the fire department said, yeah, we can't do that big band because we can't run the risk of that. So they're all looking at the liability piece of it.
And being on city street,
Yeah.
city's gonna be hauled in no matter what. If somebody stumbles out there, the city gets sued. That's automatic, I mean, they've done that how many times now? So you can't say that we can give you a blessing and you go in and you mess up, it's our fault, or it's not our fault, it will be our fault. You see where I'm coming from?
And that's just the fine, because with the rodeo, it's still in litigation. And all the attorney's fees and all the court documents, how that all plays out. So they're still waiting to hear how that's gonna be, so.
That's what I'd like to see you come back and say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're gonna handle this, and this is gonna be, so we can all see this and come to an agreement. I can't just say, go ahead and go for it, I can't. There's too much at risk here, there's too much, everything at risk for the city. I mean, it's not that we're against you by no means. It's just that you have to see our way part of this too.
Yeah, no, I do. But then my other side of this is, I don't have anything in place for seating at the moment. I can't even say that I got something that I'm halfway positive about. I don't. So at that point, I can't meet current regulations at the time, and I can't wait for updates. So the city's gonna turn me down, so why not just do it now so I have this to go back to the bands and the contracts?
Well, have Dick look at this contract first. We've got a meeting in 2 weeks. You know, have Dick look at the contract, see what can go on. Try to go back to your club and say, how can we make this work? That's all we're asking.
Maybe the solution is that the band says, no, we can't wait. Well, then I guess we're not doing it. Then they're canceled, basically.
I mean, it's not what we're saying, no, it's just, we have to have this stuff in place in order to do it. Sorry?
But Chair, can I just ask, are you guys even wanting to look at seating? To be, I mean, I'm just perfectly, just.
Put it on the table,
Yeah.
put it on the table. You ain't
Not
gonna do it.
really.
Oh, well, you ain't gonna do
That's
it.
just it. I don't
So
think
then we
that-
got,
that's
then we
what
got
I'm
it, we got
thinking, is
it,
the
it's gotta go.
JCs.
Like I said, the best thing we got is we're hoping that that comes
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
year.
And so I think,
Yeah, so that's.
and if it's going by square footage, can you
Right.
make it at 240 people? I mean, that's the other thing, you
No,
know?
you'd never be able to make your money on that,
No.
so it's not a good deal.
It's better to
I
try to
think
get
that
out
we
of
can get
it.
straightened out. I'm not too concerned about that point. It's the
Maybe,
seating
yeah.
one.
Well, the seating,
There was what it all is still gonna come back to.
let's
But
see,
even 1,000, can you make it at 1,000 people?
that's for them guys to
Yeah,
decide.
but I
If
mean,
they can't do the seating, the decision seems to be they can't do it. We don't have to, if you can't do it, you can't do it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's the topic we're here about,
Yeah.
is that, so I mean, if it's not gonna be able to go, you sure can't give a blessing this evening.
The only I could say is that tell them you can't, that you're not gonna comply. If something did change, you guys are all reasonable people, you come back and reconsider it again without any, but that's, if they can comply, but right now, if you want an answer, you guys want some, not some valley, but I think if things change, they'd have to come back and redo a new deal, right?
The thing is for Craven, in all respect to the J.C.'s, I mean, there's so much planning
Oh, sure.
that goes on, and how much stuff, what has to be done with posters and advertising and all that, and the money you put in that.
and it's not just training, it's all of our stuff. I mean, so we gotta figure out our parade bin, I've gotta get, our list to print in a week. This isn't
Yeah, I mean,
something that
all
you
this
just
discussion
slam
is about
out.
our event. What's the plans in place for everything else?
Yeah, it's not just that,
It's
it's
not-
everything,
It's everything.
how do you get the food court done to work? I don't have a clue.
And all of our other people, and they,
Kenny wasn't even sure they were gonna go.
Yeah,
Have that.
for the smoke meat thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, we have other things, we have pedal pole, then we have to figure out,
yes.
Fireworks. Should probably make that work, I don't know.
Yeah, you can't go around the government guidelines, you just can't.
No.
So,
It's really sad. It's really sad, isn't it? For this year. Next year should be better.
Way low. Yeah.
hopefully we can do it. That's why you like in September, or even, let's say, end of July. You don't wanna do it, but, I mean, that's probably a better option for you.
You just run into other events.
Well, you're gonna run into.
That's the biggest struggle, is summer gets packed.
And you don't know that your
People
band's
plan for
gonna
our
go
event
dance.
being this weekend every single year, and we don't wanna change that.
I want to consider changing it, I might not consider having it.
That's what we've already said, right?
That's what I mean, it's not that we're against it or anything, it's just that we gotta abide by this, and I got too much at risk, or I know we do,
The
to not
city.
comply. So if you can't be compliant, then we can't do it. If you can come back and comply, we have a meeting a week from Wednesday. I'm gonna give you a week and a half to have Dick look at this contract and anything else. That's the only thing I'm saying is, we have to worry about the city.
Yeah. I guess at this point, I just don't know what a week and a half is gonna give me, other than another week and a half delay to ultimately wanna wait, then I guess that is what it is.
That's, do more homework on it. I mean, don't wait till the last day and then say, well, I couldn't do it. I mean, go start tomorrow and, you know, we can even go see what we can do with the state side.
Well, we can't change anything on the
No, we
state
can't,
side of it
but we
at all.
can-
The guidelines
We can
are already
have a-
there.
We can do some looking and do some other things.
What do you mean by looking? I think
I mean,
Dick
we
has been
can-
looking at this, we have,
Well-
have read the guidelines. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but there is just, there's nothing we can do against the state guidelines until the mayor, or the governor
I
lifts
want to
it.
ask him if maybe see if there's possibility of changing down the road. That's what I'm asking. I ain't saying this is set in stone right here. This is where we're gonna go. I'm gonna say, let us do some check and see if they're gonna open it up a little farther down the road.
Well, that's up to Traven, whether or not he wants to put the effort into moving the date, right? And do you think
No, I'm talking
Or
about,
you
I'm
mean
talking about end of May.
The end of May.
to the end of May?
If they open it up, you could tell us if it possibly, a good chance to open it up at the end of May, I wouldn't have an issue with it.
Well, let's.
Even opening up isn't the big thing, the big thing is gonna come out of that seating.
See?
Well, all right, let's throw it this way. If you want an answer tonight that the city for sure is gonna let you do it, I think there's a consensus of the council that you're not gonna let it do it on the current circumstances.
Circumstances, right?
Is that a consensus?
Pretty much, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so then the second thing is, so that seems to be done. So if you don't wanna wait until after June 1st, I suppose if, on May 1st, if they change the rules, then I suppose you have to come back. If you want an answer for sure, well, the council is not gonna tell you for sure tonight. The answer is no right now, based upon the facts that we have. Is that a consensus? Not that, all right, so then, do you wanna come back? I don't know. Do you wanna come back if it changes?
No, may it be too late.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you need a motion?
I think we better have something for the record here, because that band is gonna wanna see something. They're gonna wanna look at our, see something and, so that we can try and get them out of that. Not get them out of that, comply with the contract, because this is an act of God. It's something outside of our control that we can't do anything about. And you had a permit to use the city street, and we can't do that anymore because of the governor's pandemic and that we can't comply. So that's outside of everybody in this room's control.
I mean, if the city straight up cancels it, I'm like a straight up 50-50 whether or not they'll let it slide or not.
I can't say yes.
I'm saying that let the contract slide or whether they'll end up making us pay. I would say it'll be a straight up 50-50, but that would definitely help.
Yeah, that'll help, yeah.
You need this information though, so you can find out, right? I mean.
He needs to have a resolution
You
passed
need
by the
them to
city.
decide, so you can go find out.
So you
Don't
did the
decide
governor's
tonight, you
executive
can't find
order.
out.
The city cancel.
So somebody needs to make motion.
I'll make the motion that we cancel Volks Fest for 2020. One.
Second,
I'll say.
motion made and second to cancel it now, Food Fest for 2021, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Resolution's passed. So. I just hate seeing it, but it's.
Yes.
You gotta do your.
No, I'll help him, I'll do my, I've been talking to Trayvon, I have a good working relationship. I'll do my best to convince them that this is something that they can't get by, and the city will use our services as much as we can to help him, okay? I'm authorized to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So why would they say?
Okay, all right. Do I, I'll
We
do
have
it.
their permission to help you guys out.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I don't see any other way we can go about it.
Do we
Okay.
have to make a resolution for that?
We are.
No,
No, I think,
motion,
no, just a direct,
Just-
I got a direction, I think, from everybody to do that,
Mhm.
from Patrice.
I did.
Everybody.
Yeah, okay.
No, we don't need, that's all we do.
It's a sad deal. It's terrible. Because I think we're gonna see probably more and more trickle down because they're not changing the order.
Unless like that, says, so they open the thing up in May, and then all of a sudden all these other places maybe have time to do theirs, but,
Yeah, I would think that they would give this order a month
Yeah.
and then do the next
Can't
order.
change it.
What if they try to cancel it and then the order opens up so they can have it? Is that create a problem with the contract after the fact, or?
I'm speculating, I have to look at the contract.
I think so because it was canceled during.
I just think it's like you said, it takes one person to bring it up or video it or something, send it to the state, and then somebody's gonna get sued.
I don't know about earlier.
Yeah.
Well, there was a
You have
road,
the documents.
That was last year. Of course, they said they
Well, it's
weren't
on
gonna
your
go by
email.
the state guidelines.
Read it. Pardon?
They said they
Lori, what
weren't
else
going by
are
the
you
state
speaking on, anything
guidelines. And this rodeo,
Yeah.
they showed pictures of a
No.
full of people.
Do you want to talk about
States
that
come
or?
down.
let's just,
That was
we did enough. Are we ready to adjourn, Carrie?
Are we still on?
Yeah, we're on, so.
We're still on.
Oh,
Yeah, I know it's, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second, adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
This game.
Sorry for another.
Wow.
Here's what it is.
Well, they come right down to it.
That was my.
Pretty much.
Yeah, answer the question.